This is my 2015 McLaren 650S, and in the last video, which you guys will see linked up here, we removed the gearbox from this car because we have got a bad driveline damper. It is a super common problem with all of the 2012 to 2016 cars. In 2017, there was an updated part made that looks like this guy and replaces the factory style in this generation of car that's prone to failure like ours right now. The parts aren't that bad. In Canadian dollars, we were approximately 3-4 grand in parts for the driveline damper, all the seals, fluids, accessories, and things that I'm gonna do while we're in here, because of course we're gonna change gearbox fluids and do a bunch of other little maintenance-y things. But we are gonna get the new driveline damper swapped in, start assembling this car, and putting this thing back together. Everybody talks about the McLarens being really unreliable and really difficult to work on. Thus far, it really hasn't been that bad, especially considering that this is a car that we weren't able to find any instruction manuals or procedures for online or anything like that. So, let's get to it. At this point, we have got the gearbox out, but we haven't really done any of our other prep. And before we can get putting the gearbox back in, we need to get this guy removed and the new one installed, and we have also got a rear main seal as well as the transmission input shaft seal to replace. And of course, outside of that, we're going to do a bunch of cleanup before we put it back in, because there is some shavings and metal that ended up places, and that is kind of going to be step number one. We got to get the old driveline damper off and start getting the new stuff put on. So we have got the driveline damper out, a little bit of side-by-side comparison. It is really crazy to see how much beefier this is and more well-built it appears. Of course, the springs are internal on this one as compared to this one, where you can see they're exposed. And the main thing that they do, like you can see, this one is already falling apart and starting to do it. They wear channels into the retaining spots, and then eventually that allows enough loose movement that the vibration breaks chunks of the spring off. And then eventually, as it breaks more and more, you end up with stuff like this, where the spring is able to come in and out and has rubbed off a ton of material against the front of the gearbox. This design, all that completely goes out the window. Thankfully, this design is there because this is a lifetime replacement, whereas this is something, if we put another fresh one in, we'd maybe get another 20-30,000 kilometers and we'd be having the exact same problem. So we are going to get that guy bolted in and keep going. Now we got to get this all cleaned up and this all cleaned up. Of course, there's some residue on stuff, some chunks of metal and whatever else, and then we have a new seal to put there and a new seal to put here. Gonna pop this guy out here so we don't damage that sensor, and then get this all sprayed out with brake clean and replace the rear main seal, while Colin cleans this guy up a bit. We'll place an input shaft seal. It's not all glamorous. We're off to a fun start. We have got a lovely mess of oil. It's not even that much fluid that's been displaced. You can see there's a little bit of a weep hole right there to show, like, I don't even know if that's supposed to be to drain off of or what it would be for. But of course we have probably lost, I don't know, 1/3 of a liter or something like that through that hole, and we can see it drying up and kind of slowly doing its thing. But we kind of want to let that equalize and get all the oil out so we can make that nice and dry before we insert the new rear main seal. I also almost forgot, when you're removing something like this, the easiest way is to screw a screw into the seal and just pull it out. And this, honestly, it pried out very nicely and very easily. It really wasn't too bad at all. So then you just give her a little tap in with a hammer so it can bite. Screw it out, grab it with some pliers, and away you go. We're gonna do the exact same thing here in 2 seconds with that guy. We are definitely gonna have ourselves some good cleanup to do over there when this is done. But you'll see here, just trying to get this guy to bite. It's the most difficult part of removing a seal this way. You guys gotta be careful, because you don't want to scar up the mating surface at all. But yet, same sentence, you need to get a touch aggressive with it for it to start doing its thing. Oh. Just got it in there enough to bite. You see, we screwed in to the seal itself without hurting the mating surfaces surround. The input shaft is very, very hard. Of course, that's also gonna wanna drain. It's one of those things, you'd swear I just never learn, like ever. But, it's not my bucket. It's part of why we're doing fluids on both sides of the gearbox as well. So we already drained, like this would be clutch fluid. We did already drain the fluid in the gearbox, but we apparently did not drain the fluid, or well, I know we didn't drain the fluid in the clutch yet. So that is what this stuff would be. A little chunk of seal still sitting here from right where we drilled in. Boom. Nice, clean, and pretty. We'll let this drain here for a hot minute, and we'll finish draining this after the fact, but same thing as well. We'll make sure that enough fluid drains out so that we can install the seal nice and dry versus trying to install the seal in an oil bath. Another little pro tip, which is quite funny to say as I'm the pro who's got a whole bunch of oil all over the ground and doesn't know what he's doing. But I used a floor jack and a chunk of wood to very gently tip up the engine, which we're gonna have to do, or would have to do down the line anyways, in order to get the gearbox to mate up. But what I did is I let the rear main seal drain out to the point where it really slowed down, and then you tip it up so that the oil runs that way instead, and it lets the seal dry up properly instead of just continuing to drip and run forever as it tries to equalize the oil level with the drain out point, because of course trying to equalize the oil level to the drain out point, it's just going to drain out forever. So I tip that up a bit, and I get this cleaned up here very carefully with some paper towel, and let's install a new rear main seal, and then of course, you know, clean up my mess. So now if you guys take a peek, we've tipped up the engine, we've cleaned up a little bit, and I'll finish cleaning up all of this later, or later as in 2 seconds. But now you can see there's that weep hole at the bottom of the gearbox that is now all dry around, and we can install our new seal. All right, so we have very gently pressed in the rear main seal and made sure it's even and flush all the way around. Gonna get this all cleaned up, put a driveline damper in. Making it along good. We've got a new input shaft seal, and Colin is finishing cleaning up the gearbox, which is already looking a million times better. We're also gonna install the new seal right there, because that's actually a coolant passage as well. And yeah, after that, I think I am gonna focus on getting these spark plugs done. I know that's a little bit off topic, but I think from what I gather, there's not a ton of information online about doing that job, but I think from what I gather, we already have to do the, like you can see some residue. We're already gonna do the clamps on this guy, so we'll pull that guy off in replacing the new clamps and get it out of the way. We'll be able to get that guy out of the way, and this guy, and this guy, and this guy. And hopefully at that point, we should actually have pretty good access to all 4 spark plugs on either bank. I chatted with Kevin at the McMedics, who is an awesome gentleman, and he recommended that we do coil packs and plugs at the same time. This time around, we decided to go just plugs for the moment, which might bite us in the ass down the line, but we haven't been having any issues, and it's another $1,000 to get coil packs, which these ones seem to be doing pretty happily. So we're just gonna do plugs for now, get those fresh, and we'll be able to inspect coil packs and make sure all looks well and make sure there's no rust inside them. But they seem to be doing pretty good from what I gather. Car's having no issues or misfires. But I am going to get the driveline damper all bolted on and installed. Noticeable thing number 1, it's interesting information for updating the driveline damper. There's 2 variants of the updated one of these. There's one that fits the 720s and the newer cars that has a slightly different ring gear, and then this one that works in the older cars, the 675s, the 600 LTs, blah, blah, blah. This guy, they all say that the bolts need to be replaced, which is a really weird one to try and comprehend because it's the same thread pitch and it looks like the same head. Until you look, these are the old ones on the table. See how much thinner the head is for clearance to have the articulation back and forth versus this guy. So when you get one of these, make sure you do indeed replace it with the correct new version of the bolts that have a shallower head, because you need it. And we are going to put a little dab of blue Loctite on all these, and we actually got the torque spec from Kevin at McMedics, and it's 100 Newton meters that we got to bolt these up to. We'll make sure we tighten them up in a star pattern, so all is well. Let's get that thing in there. As per the usual, everything takes longer than anticipated, but we're actually making along quite good. You guys can see that is clean as all hell and looks good to go in. The input shaft seal has been swapped out, same as the rear main seal of the DLD, and now the DLD itself is installed. So theoretically speaking, we can we're ready. We can slide the transmission back in and start bolting the gearbox back into the housing. I guess outside of swapping out that little cooling seal that's in the bottom left there. But what I'm gonna do, while I can still stand right here, is work on the spark plugs. And we're gonna see how much of a pain in the butt this is gonna be. I'm gonna get the throttle bodies removed, the intake tubes to the intercoolers removed, as well as this guy removed. And we'll see how bad it is to get back there and try and get our spark plugs changed. I'm pretty sure camera ran out of battery again. Common theme when you work for a very, very long time on the same stuff. But this really isn't that bad. We've got the throttle bodies out, the intake tubes out, and we've got access pretty much to all the coil packs. The coil packs on this car are super, super flexible. Like the rubber neck is very, very flexible. So they are pretty easy to articulate out. But we're slowly working at it. Slowly working at it. Colin went back to grab a couple more things. So we have a magnet and some dielectric grease as we put it back together and a couple things like that at Princess Auto. He'll be back in a few minutes. I've been pulling more stuff apart as I can here and just trying to do as much as I can without that, so that when he gets back, we can just hammer it out, get the spark plugs done, and get the gearbox back in. Once again, got another time lapse and another dead battery. Finally, we have the right tools. Adam is an absolute G. He's got these. And what these are super thin 12-point swiveling sockets themselves that are specifically meant for spark plugs. And they're amazing. They have a little magnet in them. So it's kind of like the rubber ones that you get that the spark plug wants to stick in. But it only holds them a little bit and you can still pull them out. Like, this is literally, you cannot get more perfect tool for this job. And I will say, without them, we'd probably be a lot further behind. But now that we've got these, I've been struggling with it for about an hour and a half, 2 hours now. Now that we got these, I've already got the first 2 plugs changed, and it's been like 15 minutes. So I'm gonna actually set this finally back up on a time lapse and get all the plugs finished changed. We have got all of the coil packs reinstalled. This one took a little bit longer than we wanted it to, but it is what it is. We've got everything all dielectric greased. We inspected each coil pack because there's an internal spring that we wanted to make sure was as it should be. So we've got 8 new spark plugs installed, 8 coil packs dielectric greased, clicked in place, done, happy, and good. It's a huge win. It's a very, very huge win. We're getting to the point in the evening where I am ready to go home and go to bed because it's about 1 in the morning. Put back on the throttle bodies and the charge piping that goes from the throttle bodies to the intercoolers, just to make sure everything's all sealed up. And we'll join you guys tomorrow after that to keep going with assembly. We're back. We'll see. I've got numbnuts 1 and 2 still here. And we're about to put the gearbox in. Everything else up top is done. I just replaced, there is the little seal on the bottom left of the gearbox. That guy is for coolant, and he's gonna get hit if he drops that. That guy is for coolant, and it's a passageway between the engine and the gearbox to a cooler on the left side. We replaced that seal, wanna make sure that that's good. Of course, we did the rear main seal. We replaced all the bolts, the driveline damper. I checked the tightness on the oil plugs on the back of the engine, because I was informed that's a good idea. Got that all torqued, blue Loctited. Everything should be all good. I'm glad we did the spark plugs as we did, because trying to get in there withstanding where the transmission lives is 10 times easier. Thankfully, Adam brought over those sockets yesterday. Made things a million times easier getting the spark plugs done. They're done. The coil packs are all greased, good, happy, ready to go. and we're about to mate up a gearbox.
Pro tip, working on a McLaren, do not attempt to do spark plugs without these. Just don't. This is 5 hours. This is 45 minutes. Spend the 20 bucks on Amazon. You'll thank me later.
Best purchase ever. All right, let's install a gearbox. Hilarious. That was probably like the shortest time lapse ever putting a gearbox in a car. It is made it up. We got to put in bolts and stuff, but there's one stud that was mounted this way and other studs that are mounted the other way. It's all beautifully mounted. The main mount for the top is already exactly where it needs to be. You just gotta start bolting things together. This is like, of all things, this was way too easy. So I don't know, once again, I gotta stop doing this. I don't know when the time lapse shut off, but we are making very good progress. See here.
Did Jeremy not watch the camera
Guilty. We got the upper bolt here is bolted through. That is all tightened up and good. This thing takes a crap ton of Loctite, like to the point where there's even a little window specifically for that, so we can heat up the bolt upon removal. But that is all good. All the bell housing bolts are all tightened up and good. Got the couple lines that go to the air brake for the gearbox fluid there. Those are also all snugged up and good. Got this all cleaned up as well. After we had the new suspension installed, there was one banjo bolt that was still leaking a little bit on this corner. And I chatted with Alex a good bit, and we were able to just replace it. I was under the impression that if we pulled off that line, it was gonna have a lot more pressure behind it than it did, and that we were gonna have to get it electronically bleeded. But he said, shouldn't be too bad because the fluid loss, of course, was very little. And he said, if we got to top up fluid a touch, we will, but it looks like fluid's at a pretty good level in the reservoir in the frunk. And we didn't really lose any fluid. So we put fresh banjo bolts in. He said, make sure operate the lift a couple times, as well as operate the steering a bit after we get back together. But I have spent a good bunch of time with some spray nine, cleaned up the shock so that there's no more fluid residue on it anymore. We've swapped out banjo bolts, and that seems all happy and good. So now comes the fun part, where this just becomes a nice, lovely Tetris puzzle, where we try and make sure that we don't miss anything. We'll get all of the electrical connected. We'll get all the hose clamps swapped out, because I bought a nice big expensive bag of hose clamps right here, and that is supposed to be enough to replace all the hose clamps in the cooling system if need be. There's already a handful of them that have been replaced, which is good, but we'll go through and make sure any of the ones that haven't been replaced do get replaced, and make sure we don't have any coolant leaks. So I'm gonna do that. We can start putting back together suspension. At this point, really, it does just become pile of Tetris parts put back in McLaren. So it's gonna be great. Let's keep it rolling. Making along slowly. We've got a whole bunch of coolant hose clamps replaced, and Adam actually just ran because he's got a couple coolant hose clamps that will do the job better than a couple of the ones we have, which is going to be great. But we are getting to a point where we can actually put quite a bit of this together. I'm about to get the left-hand downpipe can go in along with all the electrical. We need to get the electrical done first because the electrical kind of fits in the way of getting the downpipes in and out. The electrical is the last thing that I undid before pulling the downpipes. And it's gonna be really fun because we have the aftermarket downpipes to go in and replace them, which is gonna be great. So, I'm gonna get all the electrical all hooked back up here and plugged back in. Then we're gonna go put in some downpipes. Another coolant pipe in. Got a whole bunch of the electrical done. I have one or two more connections. Adam is over here setting up these beautiful babies. And we are gonna make a video down the line. We'll put the stock downpipes back in, put the car on the dyno, put these in, put the car on the dyno, and then tune it and put the car on the dyno to see what stock downpipes, no tuning, and downpipes with tuning make. But we're going on a rally here in a couple weeks. We want to see what the car sounds like with these, and it is totally going to be worth pulling the thing back apart again to play around with it and see what it makes with and without. But for the time being, as the car goes back together, it is going to sound bonkers. So Adam is getting all prepped because I think we're going to try and put the tin clamshells back around them. Whether it works or not, I'm not sure. Well, actually, you know what? Probably even keep them out for now. Because I had to, when I pulled them out,
They'll be in the way, hey?
yeah, when I pulled them out, I had to remove the sensors to make life easier. It might have been possible without, but our life will definitely be easier with.
Clamshell action.
Woohoo! Well, we'll see, because the clamshells we'll also put on in, or we'll have to, but we may as well like see if they fit out here. Big moment. We're having fun. And we are putting in catless downpipe number 1. Tried putting on the clamshells around it, and apparently the spacing of these guys is different. And it's not gonna work unless we start hacking them apart. Don't really want to do that in case / when we go back to stock, if it goes back to stock. We want to make sure that we have all this stuff in order to do that. But downpipes are going in. We're making decent progress. Kind of slowly just chipping away at it, to be honest with you. We've been fighting a little bit with this downpipe, getting that all lined up, slowly assembling the back. I've traced a whole bunch of the electrical and made sure that we know what everything is. Kind of gone through my stockpile of parts here and made sure that we have every electrical plug accounted for, every part accounted for. We've got all our bags of goodies accounted for, and everything kind of makes sense. So at this point, it really is just about keep bolting it together the way it bolted apart. Getting in the downpipes is kind of thing number 1. Adam is a GM down there trying to make sure that that seats up correctly.
I hate you.
Love you.
So itchy.
But no, after this, the suspension will go on really quick. We're leaving that out until we have the downpipe sorted. We'll get this together and get the cat back probably even on before we snug up the V-bands completely on these guys, just to make sure everything bolts up as it should. Got a vacuum pump and a couple things in the back to install here. Colin and I just mounted up the crash bar that we'll finish getting bolted on, because right now it's loose. But slowly coming together. It looks like it's a lot worse than it is. So much of this process being a pain in the butt was all the stuff to do while it was all apart. Like fighting with getting the actual DLD swapped, all the seals swapped, cleaning up the gearbox. So many of these little bits and pieces is what's consumed most of the time. The actual assembly isn't too bad. We're not in any rush. Things are going really, really well.
Except for downpipe.
Apparently that.
So the way these are shaping up, the bellow itself, like you almost need to accordion it. It's gonna be, to get this bottom flange on, it's taking the whole thing and going like this to get it on, and it's making it lower than the hole lines up on the rubber exhaust mount. So it's like you're gonna have to pull on the bellow pretty hard to stretch it out to get it back in the grommet, because it just doesn't want to do it. Because now this is flat, this is where it's supposed to be, and now I'm too low to line up with the exhaust hanger. But it is on, and everything's centered now. So I'll get it to the point it can just barely move, level of tightness, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Hopefully. We got to still change some fluids. There is still some stuff to attend to, but we're slowly chipping away at all the stuff that's like adjustable, right? Like looking at all this stuff, for example, I mean, ironically, these move a little bit, but most of this is just bolt together assembly. Bolt together, click on a connector, click on a line, that kind of stuff. And that's the kind of stuff we like. Fiddling with adjustable bolts and downpipes and things like that, it's less fun.
Fiberglass.
Fiberglass.
Fiberglass, no fun.
Fiberglass.
Feel it inside me. It's gone in every orifice.
Colin has been violated. What was her name?
Uncle Fiber.
The later we get, the worse the jokes are. It's only going downhill from here.
So that's, take a look at the top of this, dude. See how much room you have? That's all you're gonna get. Like you can.
No, that honestly, that's totally workable.
I can rotate it.
No, that's totally workable.
Like left to right, I can rotate it.
No, that's like perfect. You just accidentally rotated it into the clamp.
Come on.
Yeah, that wasn't me.
Sick.
Like that was kind of half holding it, but that was, you literally, like you just accidentally rotated that in.
We're good.
Yeah, we're
Good.
we're laughing.
It's almost fully tight. I can just barely
Yeah,
move it.
perfect. Woohoo!
Sucked.
Slowly winning. Now hopefully number 2 doesn't take us as long.
No.
So how it goes, like the first time when I pulled these off, it took me forever to pull off number 1 until I was like, maybe I should try pulling off the
number
heat
2,
shields. And then I pulled off the heat shields for number 2 and it was like a 15-minute thing. Okay, so we're calling it a night and we're making really, really good progress. Adam just left, Colin's still here. It's 1 in the morning, we're about to head back home and go get some sleep. But at this point, we have the suspension to put back on. The suspension won't take very long, it's only a handful of bolts. Got the exhaust is gonna have, this part at least of the exhaust is gonna have to come back out. But we've got the downpipes all fitted up. We just gotta kind of snug everything. And the only thing we wanna do before that is do our gearbox fluid, because after that, we can put in our exhaust tray that sits below and just kind of piece it all together, make sure that all of the clamps and bolts of the exhaust system all line up as they're supposed to, so we don't have any weird rattles or anything like that. And that'll kind of be the next thing. It's not that though, it's really the modular stuff that's left, which is nice. We still have a good handful of hours of putting stuff together yet to do, but as we look at our graveyard of parts slowly dwindling. We have downpipes that are not going back on, brakes and suspension stuff, and each of the brake / suspension corners aren't going to be too bad. The armadillo, that's kind of a last piece. The diffuser and skid plates, that's all final stuff. The bumper is, well, the bumper, again, more final assembly. Same thing with the wing, more final assembly. Same thing with the fender line is more final assembly. The rear grille is kind of a part of the bumper. Because we're looking at it, pretty much everything that's left outside of the corners of the suspension and the sway bar, along with a couple oddball brackets and things like this little cross member, there isn't a whole bunch of mechanical stuff, or really any mechanical stuff yet to put on. It's all just the plunk the last bits together, make sure fluids are good, and that should hopefully go pretty quick. So we're doing good. We'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, ladies and gents, we're back, and hopefully, fingers crossed, about to do final assembly on the 650S. I'm gonna keep putting stuff together. I think we are going to work on the exhaust here first, because I think, I will confirm, but we should be able to fill through the fill plug right there for the gearbox. I don't think there's anything else we need in this area. Worst comes to worst, we will pop the cap back off and pull this back out if there is something that we missed, but I don't think there is. We've got everything back routed where it needs to be. Everything's clean, everything's happy, everything should be all plugged in. I will do one more look over, but I realize we will also need to put the suspension components back on so we can plunk the axles back in before we can finish the gearbox fluid change. So I am going to finish bolting up all the exhaust stuff, and then we will move on, get the suspension back completed on either side, and then we can go back to focusing on getting the fluids done and give this thing a first proper fire. It's not that far away. We're making great progress for what it is. The only thing I'm hoping is that the starter is not burnt again, because the starter smells a little bit unhappy, but we tested it with a battery and it did spin and do its thing. So we're gonna see. But first things first, let's get an exhaust put back on. Exhaust, solid. We swapped out the bushing on the front here, and I actually put a little bit of hose around that suspension line that had a tiny bit of wear on it from this guy, from the old bad bushing. We swapped the bushing that's bad with more wear over to this guy. And there's still a touch of play, but it's in a lot less vulnerable place there. Everything feels super solid. The clamps are all on the bottom, the clamps are on right here. Everything lines up good. The grill looks good behind it as well. So actually, we're doing really well. I still have to finish putting in the O2 sensors on this side. The O2 sensors are already in on this side, along with the O2 fooler, the little spacer that goes between the downstream O2 sensor and the downstream O2 sensor and the stream of O2. So I'm gonna finish bolting that guy up and keep going with assembly. Got the exhaust all bolted in and done. And now we have also got our two O2 sensors bolted in and done. We've got our spacer on the downstream one on both sides, which should hopefully stop us from having a check engine light. At least that's what the previous guy who had these downpipes on said. Seen a couple things online that hopefully should solve the problem for us. So we are making along very, very well. The next thing I think we're gonna do is I think I'm going to connect, while I've got stuff at this level of apartness, I'm gonna clean up these guys and put the rad reservoir back on with fresh clamps. And outside of that, I think the only engine bay assembly we have up top left after putting that in is just the trim pieces, the wing, the armadillo shell, and reattaching these that we unattached because we didn't have battery life to flip this back open with the button. So I am going to transition here to that guy. And then I think we're going to spend some time putting together the suspension. I'm a little bit worried because we definitely have another thing leaking underneath, which is very unfortunate. And I'm really hoping it's just an O-ring-esque thing that we can swap out and fix. But we'll take a look at that here in 2 seconds as well, because if we got to order something else, we will get that going ASAP. But hopefully we shouldn't have to. Hopefully we'll be able to just swap out an O-ring and maybe see what we've got for a spare or what have you, and be laughing. So I am going to keep on rolling here. We will take a peek at that leak and we will get suspension going back on the car. Probably about to be a really bad idea, but we're going to try it anyways. You guys can see that little pile of fluid right there, and that stainless line right there is dripping. I don't know how much fluid that's going to lose a guy. Hopefully not a ton, but one way or another, we're already in here. May as well pop it off. And hopefully it's just an O-ring of sorts, because if it's just an O-ring of sorts, then we'll be able to just replace that, and onwards we go. But I'm probably about to make a mess. Hopefully we don't drain more fluid than needs to be in there, / lose much oil that I got to replace, because we just did an oil change, but it's gonna be what it's gonna be. We are doing really, really well. This side suspension is on, the other side suspension is on. I didn't end up recording this side, obviously I did record that side. It's a bit of a pain, a little bit of flexing, because there is tension on both the control arms when everything is bolted in. And as you can see, like, this corner of the suspension is tight, which is awesome, but it does mean it's kind of a pain in the butt to get everything bolted in, and you have to be very, very careful. It's very easy at cross-edge stuff, and of course, we do not want that. That being said, shock bolted in, top mount bolted in, four here, all bolted in, and the tow arm bolted together as well. We are going to be done here for the evening. I'll show you guys in 2 seconds. We're going to be done for you for the evening, and I'm going to go spend a little bit of time with Hope, and we'll finish up tomorrow morning and get this thing first fire up done tomorrow morning. But we did pop off that line that was leaking, and if we take a peek underneath, you guys will see what I'm talking about, because this line, that O-ring is leaking. You can see this flange is loose. So the fit of this O-ring is what actually seals it. This just holds this guy in right here. So we've lost a bit of oil again. Yes, I know you're upside down, but we've lost a bit of oil again. We'll replace this O-ring tomorrow. I've got Adam bringing over a couple of O-ring kits, and hopefully we will find something that fits and works as it should, fingers crossed. But, and of course we lost a bit more oil again, which we will have to measure to make sure we replace and then check, and whatever else for the oil procedure. I have some spare oil, I'm not worried about that, but we did lose some. That being said though, it's an answer, which is awesome, absolutely awesome. And this thing's pulling together. Got brakes to install, a whole bunch of trim panels, but at this point we still haven't done it yet, but we can reinstall the rad reservoir with fresh clamps, and we can put the armadillo clam back on, that back on, and everything back here all together. We'll get fluids done before we do the bumper and whatnot, just to be safe. But at this point, most of the assembly really is O-ring, fluids, starter. Outside of that, got wheels left, brakes and brake ducts, old downpipes, this cross member, which won't take us long. We just got to bolt that back in, and there is a plug on there. We'll probably bolt that guy in before we try and fire it up, just for the safety of it. But outside of that, bumper, we don't really need that to start it. Grills, we don't need those to start it. Brakes, we don't need those to start it. We'll see. We'll put the parking brake calipers back on as well, but that's all kind of still part of the brake assembly. Really, at this point, the car still looks fairly apart, but most of the stuff that is still apart is the vestigial stuff. We don't really have much left over to do that's like, you know, pertinent to the car running. Fluids is the main one, but that hopefully tomorrow morning shouldn't be too bad. We'll replace an O-ring, top up the oil, make sure that's all good. We'll use the vacuum bleed kit I bought and we'll fill the cooling system. We'll finish the clutch oil as well as the gearbox oil. That's gonna be it. Nice and simple. So I will join you guys in the morning. It's go time, baby. Let's get this thing together. Yesterday we left off, we got the suspension in and the axle shafts installed, of course, on both sides and clicked into place. It's important because we needed to do that before we could finish the gearbox fluid change, which is kind of the next thing. I'm gonna get the fluid changes done. Adam is gonna be here and not too long with his O-ring kits. And hopefully we'll be able to have an O-ring that will fit that, that drain line that we popped off. So it was definitely engine oil. I believe it was the drain line, or it's a drain line to and from the oil sump, if I'm not mistaken. So we've got that guy is all drained out. We'll replace the O-ring, get that back in. As far as the gearbox fluid change goes, that is the next thing we're gonna kind of finish out. I'm gonna pop the plug back out because it's this guy right there that we had out to drain the gearbox fluid for the transmission side. Because of course this car has a transmission side and a clutch side. And the transmission side is all drained out fluid-wise, but I'll still pop that back out. We have to swap out the filter and we can fill it back up. And it shouldn't be too bad at all. I'm gonna get my new filter ready here and I'll show you guys where that goes. We'll get that plug pop back out just to make sure that any little dribbles of fluid have somewhere to go. And we'll be off to the races. At this point, allergy season here in Alberta can kinda suck a fat one. I'm very over it. I swear my nose has been so pissed off. But what do? This shouldn't have anything further to drain, as we drained this gearbox when it was sitting on the bench, or sitting on the, not bench. I guess that's also why we re-pulled the plug. This gearbox fluid actually looks really good. Was a little bit worried about that, but car's got 33,000 kilometers on it. Presumably, this is the original gearbox fluid. We have no reason to indicate, or no guess to indicate that it doesn't, or that it's not the original fluid, I should say. Sweet. All right, so if we take a peek here, we are on the driver's side of the car underneath. And that guy right there. So we're gonna pop out, there is a 10mm bolt, and then we're going to use a screwdriver and tap the tab that the bolt goes through to the side, so it'll break the seal. Be able to pop that guy out and be able to plunk the new one in. I have engine oil in that pan that I just put under it that I'm sliding back out. So we want to make sure that that's completely cleared out here. I'm gonna let this drain for another moment before we pop this guy off. I think we're gonna have to give it a little bit of a love tap and give it a tap from this side before it will indeed come off, but it is what it is. So we are going to give that a second more to drain, and then we'll pop this guy out. We had let this guy drain for a very long time before, but it is still dripping a little bit, so we're gonna leave it to do so. And in the meantime, because I wanted to use that pan, but I actually used that pan to catch oil that fell out when we did that drain sump line last night. And I wanted to be able to measure and get an approximate idea of how much, because I know we're gonna have to top up the oil on this car. We lost some oil, we lost some oil when we did that, as well as we lost some oil when we did the rear main seal. So I want to make sure that both of those are good and happy. And I wanted to be able to measure how much oil we just lost. And I know we lost a bit more than that. We'll probably put in approximately 2 liters, because I'm gonna bet we lost half a liter to a liter when we did the rear main seal, and it looks like we just lost about 1.5 liters, 1.75 liters as well right there. So we'll put in 2 fresh liters of oil when we fire up the car, and then we'll probably end up having to put in an extra 500 milliliters or so, 800 milliliters or so after we've got the car running, but we can only tell the oil level correctly through the infotainment. So we're gonna give ourselves a low guess to make sure that we're in a healthy operating range to run the car, and then we'll dial in the oil to be at the exact correct point. And it's unfortunate as well, because we end up in a similar situation as far as the clutch fluid and the gearbox fluid. Theoretically, it's much nicer if you can run the car before draining them, because it lets all the fluid come out. But at this point, we lost fluid through doing the input shaft seal on the gearbox. We lost some clutch fluid there. And of course, we had to drain the clutch fluid to pull the axles. And of course, this is all stuff that's taken enough time that, of course, we weren't able to run the car. So if you're doing this and you're doing it without having the car in this state like we are, do it after warming up the car so the fluid flows out easy. For us, we're stuck doing it this way, and that's totally okay. Pop that guy out, letting that drain and sit for a minute as well. And we've got the fresh one right here, ready to go in. So I'm gonna lubricate up the O-rings just a touch with some of the gearbox fluid. Just grab a fingerful of the new stuff and put it around that O-ring. We'll plunk that guy in, bolt it down, and really that's it, outside of just a little bit more waiting before we can fill it up. Unfortunately, with this, what we're gonna have to do after we fill it up initially, because there is just a fill plug right there. And unfortunately, when we fill it up, we're gonna have to fill it up till it overflows out that plug a little bit. And then we are gonna have to wait, run the car for 2 minutes, then top it up again, and then run the car fully up to temperature and check it one more time before it is all good and done for certain. Which is kind of a pain in the butt, because like I say, we're gonna have to finish doing a whole bunch of other fluids before we can get to that point. But that is the major thing that we have left to do this morning here as we're getting this car back together. The rest of the assembly, as much as it looks like this car is still apart, it's not gonna take very long at all. The rest of it is just modular stuff, but we do need to get all these fluids done. Fingers crossed, it won't take us long or much. Slowly getting cleaned up. We've got the new fresh filter ready to go in. And we've got the old one all popped out, drained out here. I just put the bottom, drain cap, on the bottom of the gearbox side of the transmission. Torqued that guy down to 37 foot-pounds or 50 Newton meters. That's all good and done because those aluminum threads are pretty darn particular. And I trust my elbow torque wrench quite a bit, but those ones are really easy and the torque spec is readily available. So we've got that torqued down. We're gonna plunk the new filter in here. I've lubricated the 2 oil rings with some of the new fluid, just a touch. We're gonna plunk that in, get that bolted back down, and then we can fill this guy up. Air compressor just turned on, but we're making great progress. Adam is just cleaning up the rad reservoir, and we'll get that back bolted on here. Got plugs installed and new filter installed for the gearbox. Just about to use our funnel here and fill up the gearbox with fluid. Hopefully shouldn't be too bad. After that, we're getting to the point, we'll do DCT fluid as well. Top up the oil / swap that O-ring. I think we can try and start the car. While I was off camera here, I did bolt the starter back in, which was one of the few remaining things left to do. We'll decide, I think we'll probably just leave the parking brakes off. Like, we don't obviously need them, but I don't know if the car is gonna be happy or not with the parking brakes unplugged. And that's something we'll find out, and worst comes to worst, we will just put on the brake discs and whatever else. But let's get this full of fluid. Also, one more random dumb one here while we're putting stuff together. Yes, you will see that there is 0W20 Mobil 1 bottles right there. No, we are not putting 0W20 in the gearbox. Did some looking, and from what I gather, these gearboxes just need a decent 75W90 GL5 fluid. But also from what I gather, there's really 3 go-to fluids that seem to work the best. There is a fancy Mobil PTX fluid that we can't really find here in Canada. There is the Liquimoly 75W90 GL4/GL5 fluid, which again, I could get here locally, but I couldn't find in time, or I couldn't find day of kind of thing. And it was very expensive. It was about $40 per liter. And then the third thing is actually a Delvac 75W90. and the Delvac fully synthetic 75W90 is what we're using. I couldn't find that locally in bottles either, but I went to the quick lube change place that's close by here that is a Mobil 1 branded one, and they had it by the barrel. So we had them fill up a couple of containers for us to put in, because that stuff's actually supposed to be very, very good. And it's the stuff that a lot of the Porsche PDK guys recommend to keep those super, super happy as well, and seems to kind of be the top-notch product. So even though it's in Mobil 1 0W20 containers, that's not what we're putting in, and it should be pretty damn good. All right, so we have got our 4 hose clamps are all bolted on there, and that is good. It still moves and articulates a little bit. It's kind of a pain because the hose clamps we replaced them with are a different style than the ones that came on the car that are not as good. And the ones that came on the car, they have a slimmer spring mechanism that holds them tight versus the worm drive clamps that have a lot more bulk to them, or like where you tighten them up. But we made it work. That's all good and dandy. We are about to pull the drain plugs for the clutch fluid, which if we take a peek, there's 2 of. We'll see here, this is gonna be real fun, because 1 drain plug, 2 drain plug, here and here. This right there is our cap for our clutch fluid filter. And then our fill point, if you can see, is right there. I don't know if you guys will see that or not, but it's up nice and high, which is unfortunate because trying to get in there is going to be a pain in the butt to fill this thing. And we're probably going to have to, well, I just called Adam. He ran to the shop to get his O-ring kits for that other line for the oil underneath the car. But might need some kind of creative funnel to get fluid in there, which is kind of a pain, but it is what it is, and it's necessary. So we're getting really, really close to the end. Like I say, after we deal with the fluids, this ain't going to be so bad. And I get these draining, and then there's actually 2 more coolant lines that we got to pop off quick underneath the frunk of the car to finish that as well. So that's all drained, because after that we'll be able to vacuum fill the cooling system, which will be good. Gearbox is full as it can be for the time being. About to drain the clutch fluid, coolant. We're gonna have to top up oil. We have got fluids all over the place that need dealt with, but we're getting there. So after this, once we've ran the car, make sure all fluids are topped up, the rest of this assembly becomes really, really easy, which is gonna be much, much more fun. But for the time being, what a pain in the ass. All right, making along well we are. We've got O-rings. Adam is working on getting that guy all swapped out so we can put oil in it. I am working underneath the front because there's coolant lines right there, as well as right here. We gotta let drain as well, just to complete the coolant flush, because, you know, we may as well while we're here kind of thing. It was already something we wanted to get done on this car. And then after that, we'll be able to vacuum fill the cooling system. We'll be able to put a couple liters of oil in when Adam's done. The gearbox is done, and then I got to change the clutch fluid, which I've already set to drain, and just letting it drain, I just got to swap the filter and refill it. Those handful of things, and then I think we'll reconnect the battery and try and give this thing a first fire, which is really, really not that far away. I'm going to join you guys in a couple of seconds with a couple of cooling lines draining that we can reattach and put fresh clamps on. We'll see. Hopefully we have some success with a generic O-ring on that big drain line. This one's gonna be really interesting. We've got the vacuum fill attachment on, and literally all it is the compressor will hook up to make a Venturi effect, pulling vacuum on this. We'll see, we should be able to test and make sure everything's all sealed, A, and B good. Outside of that, we'll see, as long as the system holds vacuum, put a little line into a bucket full of coolant and it should be all good. We gotta tighten back up 1 clamp on the front there, because we did have those 2 lines that we could see through the frunk draining. And then outside of that, vacuum fill it and we should be good to go there. We just hooked up our air compressor line to our little Venturi pump style stuff here. We've got it currently shut. We've got it set approximately 25 pounds of draw, and everything seems good. We don't seem to have any leaks, which is awesome and exactly what we were hoping for. So we're gonna let that sit here for a second and confirm that that's about as much draw as we should give it. We'll let it fill up. This one should be fun and interesting and kind of cool. We've got it still on vacuum. It's still holding vacuum perfectly, which is exactly what we want. And now we are gonna get our bucket set up here on the exhaust, ironically of all things, just because it's kind of the required as of the moment, just for positioning, but that's all right. We've got 8 liters of coolant pre-mixed here at 50-50 with the factory Zurich stuff along with distilled water. See here, now this should be intriguing.
Here we go.
This is pretty cool.
I've never done this.
Yeah.
I've always burped systems and done what I had to get air out, but never actually vacuum filled one.
It's crazy. You see, I don't know if it'll come up on camera or not, but like that's draining.
Is
like,
it?
oh yeah, like that is draining very fast. Ta-da! So now, I'm gonna plunk this back on. We've got just this black hose, is just generic hose to displace the air because I'm sure the venturi of the little blue piece is going to pull some spitty fluid residue, and that way it's just not burping in the engine bay like that. Back up, plunk that back off. Not much, but just a touch. It's pretty cool.
That feels professional.
Yeah, it's wild. So used to like just struggle busting it, trying to pour stuff in and let it heat up to a probably a little bit higher than comfortable point, and like
burp it and a day later top it up because it's low because the air finally came out.
yeah.
All that stuff.
So used to this just being so much shittier. This is not sponsored by Canadian Tire, but
Guess what country we're in?
but you know, if you're watching out there, Mr. Canadian Tire, whoever the hell that would be, you want to chuck
for sponsors.
I was gonna say, you want to chuck some money our way? Won't complain. We'll keep using your buckets. We're gonna find out. We don't know if that was as easy as it was supposed to be or not. Looks like it's full though. Like I can see coolant in the reservoir, touch of air at the top of the reservoir. We'll see if it gets unhappy and starts trying to heat up hotter than it should when we fire it up.
Well, I was looking.
Well, no otherwise. Adam is currently putting together other side of brakes. Got brakes side 1 all complete. So we did think about it. We're gonna need brake pressure in order to start the damn car. So we'll make sure that the e-brake's all hooked up and that the brakes are all on so that the car is happy that way and willing to start. Got a funnel and a little hose all set up here down there, because that is where the fill port is for the clutch side of the gearbox. We're just filling that up. We'll see, it's another one where it just fill till it bleeds out the hole, which is supposed to be 4 or 5 liters. And then at that point, we'll run the car up to temp. And after running the car up to temp, then we'll check it again and top it up. But
if the starter works.
we're really, really hoping the starter does its job, because the starter didn't want to do its job last we did this, but the starter was also jammed and unable to do its job. So we'll see. Fingers crossed.
How many times have you stalled out a non-brushless drill and it smokes and it stinks and it still works for another 5 years? So
I like his optimism.
that's where I'm at with it, because it's a brush motor, right?
Yeah.
Like I've literally almost had mine set on fire and it still works. That's my
Fingers crossed.
today.
I'll take it. We have gotten to a very, very exciting point. We've got the gearbox is full, the clutch side is full, the oil has been topped up, the coolant should be full. We'll probably have to fill up a touch more fluid in each of those places, but theoretically speaking, fluids are all in the car. We've still got a couple things unplugged. We've got the brakes are back on and installed because we're gonna need brake pressure to start it, along with, I think the car will be happier more than likely with the parking brakes plugged in as well, because they're fully electronic. The air brake is not on the car, but that should hopefully be just fine. Got the suspension line swapped. There's a lot of fluids that have been moved and pulled and drained and exposed in this car, but everything should be good. Everything should be good. We're gonna run it for a couple minutes here first time, assuming she does fire up as it's supposed to. And yeah, we'll go from there. But First fire up, hopefully about to...
That's not new, is brake fluid.
Yeah.
The whole car.
And that is something that will be done. We just haven't done yet. So this is it's gonna be a pretty exciting one. We'll hook up the battery and make sure all seems happy. It's definitely gonna have a couple fault codes on the dash, just of course, because there's a couple things that are disconnected right now. I know the TPMS light will be on. I don't know what else. But we should have everything we need, theoretically speaking, to fire it up. There should be nothing stopping that from happening. So I'm just snugging down the fill plug on the clutch side right now. Adam's hooking up the battery and we'll fire up the car. Monumental moment. This car has been apart for a couple weeks. Been a lot of time and effort spent on this car to get it to this point. That is for sure.
Clean.
Seem clean enough. See, you're gonna do one of these quick too.
All those just ejected.
I did. It's like, we should probably not leave those rattling there. Now on a wild goose chase for hood latches or hood latch. Aha!
Does this
Give you
thing
that.
have like a...
Join you guys in 2 seconds. I'm just gonna tighten up this downpipe bracket. Alrighty. This is the moment of truth.
kind of clean enough.
Alrighty, give her shit. Woo! Yeah, baby! That's sick. Sports cats smell great. We have put in so much time and effort to make this thing start. And tried to spend as much time as we could making everything as pretty and perfect as it could be. And thus far, filter one's happy, coolant level hasn't moved at all, not smelling any exhaust from the flanges. See here. Fan running right there. Not smelling any exhaust. I was worried about the downpipe gaskets leaking a little bit, and they don't appear to be, which is great. Wild. We'll let this thing run for another minute here, just to be sure. Go through our initial kind of 2-minute cycle. That also still appears to be dry, which is great. Hit tire monitoring fault. PCC degraded. See here. Water's up to first bar. Oil's not moved that much yet. So let's see here. I'm gonna do one of these. Because now, let it run for a couple minutes here. Going to top up the gearbox fluid and then let it completely run up to temperature, and we'll keep it on the coolant. And then at that point, we will once again check the gearbox fluid along with the clutch fluid, which is great. So we're gonna get back to it here. Put that guy back on. So far, it seems to be doing good, and if it's slightly underfilled, the computer will tell us on the screen. Let this thing completely run up to temperature. That'll let us check the oil level. That'll let us do a final check on the gearbox and a final check on the clutch. And then after that, just gotta keep putting stuff together. Everything seems very happy. Everything seems very, very good. This is wild. This is absolutely wild. Yep. Sounds so happy. Sweet.
There's tire monitor fault. We didn't connect that. Tire sensor, parking brake lights are on. There's no check engine light.
No, I think you press the. We'll see here.
How do you get through your menus here? I don't know your car.
Airbag fault, tire fault, air brake, PCC. What PCCC degraded means. This looks hilarious because everything is open right now. Doors, front, rear, hood, everything. But we're gonna let this thing run up to temp, make sure it goes through its paces and is nice and happy as it seems to be thus far. And we'll get putting stuff back together. Alrighty, and just like that, the car is all back together and it runs. Got a couple things, like the starter is a touch slow. So more than likely, I'm probably gonna pop that guy back out and run it back over by the place that rebuilt it previously. Have them open it back up and take a quick peek and make sure all's good. Outside of that, I think we got an O-ring to replace. That the sump O-ring that we put in isn't sealed up quite perfectly. So I'm probably gonna take the one we pulled out, which still visually looks to be in good shape, just isn't fresh. See if we can go get a replacement here in town of something that's better than the like just generic replacement we put in. Outside of that though, we just literally got to put it all together and it seems like it's done. Suspension on that corner where we replaced the banjo washers is seeming quite happy and good. Everything's running really nice. It's gone up to temp like it should. Fluid levels and everything are all checked and good. We'll have to top up the engine oil a touch, but I don't want to top up the engine oil any further until we make sure that that O-ring is not leaking. Because within the week here, on Tuesday, I got a trip to Calgary that we're wanting to take this on. And next weekend, we have Royal Rally Amped, which we're gonna take this on and go put a ton of hard miles on it in a single day. So I don't know, we're making along really, really well though. I'll probably come back later this evening. I'm gonna go for supper here, but I'll probably come back later this evening, plunk it all back together. But yeah, she runs. All right, y'all, not gonna lie, this one is really, really darn exciting. We are back. And it is the next day and we have everything we need. This car is going to be done within the matter of the next hour or 3. So I ended up running to the city because we took the starter out of the car this morning and I took it over to the same place that rebuilt it because I had starter issues with this car that started this whole process. And we had it rebuilt. And unfortunately, when we started up the car, it's slow cranking and the starter wasn't working as it was supposed to. And we took it over because we wanted to make sure it's good. We've got a couple of events and things going on this week. And the place that rebuilt the starter pulled it back apart. And unfortunately, the insides were kind of sort of fried. So we didn't want to take that risk. It was still starting the car, but nowhere near as strongly as we'd have liked. I took it over to the place that rebuilt it today because last time they were able to rebuild it and turn it around like that. And unfortunately, they weren't able to do that this time because the part that was fried inside was apparently significantly worse than the first time. There was a couple grounding points inside the starter that were burnt off the first time. They were able to replace those and away we go. This time around, apparently it was essentially the mechanism that pushes the starter out. And it was something that we weren't able to fix. So who knows? They said they might be able to fix it, but if they can, parts are gonna be a ways away. It's not gonna work like it should, more than likely. It's not gonna, there's no guarantees, put it that way. They very well still might be able to fix it, but there's no guarantees. And at that point, if they do get it fixed, we'll probably just end up selling it. And I just ran to Edmonton because there's a place that parts out cars like this in Edmonton, and it was a little bit too expensive. Their prices aren't that great, but they seem to have everything. So it was one of those things where it's like, okay, I could have ordered one online for probably $500-600 Canadian, and then ended up paying about $700 Canadian for a 3,000 kilometer starter out of a 720S. But we have it, it's good, we can plunk it in the car, and that is problem number 1 solved. Problem number 2, this is actually really funny. So this right here is the O-ring that came out that sump line that died. And you can see it's flattened off a good bit, and it almost looks purposeful, if I'm honest with you, because the O-ring looks in good shape, but it was definitely leaking. We tried, as in Adam and I, tried putting in a couple generic O-rings he had, which if we measure this guy out with the caliper, this is one of the ones that we tried to put in and sandwich in there to make work. It's about 3 millimeters thick. And it's a little bit too thick. You can see it ground off a couple of chunks on a guy. And we have one of these stuffed in there right now that's not quite sealing correctly. Of course, it makes sense. You know, we were hoping it would seal up and we were hoping it would be doable, but it didn't work the way we wanted, and it is what it is. So I went to the local O-ring specialists today, said, I have one of these, I need a replacement, or a few replacements, depending on pricing. He goes, oh, that's really easy, measures it out. It's 2.5 millimeters thick as compared to 3 millimeters thick. And he said, no, that definitely should have been round. And I was like, it looks very purposefully flat, but he was very convinced that it should have been round. So we went and we got ourselves 4 replacements of what he believes the original O-ring started out as. And it was really, really funny because I'm not certain. I'm gonna have to look it up. I'll call McLaren and or do some digging online and see what the price of that O-ring is supposed to be. But that O-ring, from what we gather, probably, I'm gonna guess, $40, $50. That's what all the other ones have been that we've bought for the car. At the specialty O-ring place, 13 cents a piece. He quite literally was like, yeah, do you have any change in your pocket? I'm like, oh, okay, how come? He's like, well, these O-rings are about 13 cents a piece, and if I charge it on card, I gotta charge a minimum of $5. So I left him a solid 50 cents because that's the change I had in my pocket. He said, have a great day, and we went on with our day, which is absolutely wild. So I'm gonna set this up here. We are going to finally get the McLaren back together because we have everything we should need. We've bled all the systems. Everything good is fluids-wise good. Outside of now, we're about to drain a little bit of oil again to swap that O-ring one more time. But that's totally okay because we have more oil on hand. And no, we're laughing, honestly. I am really, really stoked. Let's get this car together. We are about to hook up the battery and get this thing fired up. I topped it up by about 1 liter of oil. It only lost about 1 liter this time from the sump line because I kind of changed the O-ring as it was draining. And we were a touch low before, so I'm gonna suspect we lost about 500-700 milliliters. We were probably 500-700 milliliters low when we started the car. So we've topped it up, changed that O-ring, put in the new starter, which is the 2 problems that we knew we had. Outside of that, we should, fingers crossed, should just have normal assembly. So I'm gonna hook up the battery, fire up the car one more time, let it run one more time before we go and put it all together. And then we're gonna get one hell of a satisfying time lapse getting the final installation, final assembly done on the 650S. Fun, fun, fun. I don't wanna do this, but I really wanna do this. I really want my car back. Battery's connected. Let's grab the key and fire it up. It sounds so ridiculous. Like, the mic is probably clipping right now trying to keep up to this. This is wild. That starter sounds much better. Like, much, much, much better. Obviously, the other starter was still working, but apparently it was very, very unhappy with its life. So, what do you do? So I'm gonna let this run up to temp, check fluids one more time, crawl underneath, make sure nothing's leaking, make sure everything's happy, make sure we don't see any other issues, and that new O-ring is doing exactly what it's supposed to. And then we're gonna put this thing fully back together. So we're doing really, really well. Everything looks very clean underneath. There was a touch more oil underneath of that sump line, but we cleaned that off. Everything seems good. I expected that a touch just from plunking it on. We'll keep an eye on that, but I think it should be all good. It's the correct size O-ring. It's the correct everything that way. Everything sounds super quiet, seems super, super happy. Gonna check the oil level while we've got it running here real quick, just because why not, as we're letting it get up to temp. And then it's just go ham, ham, ham at putting it together. All right, y'all, we are slowly chugging along. Been pretty quiet. It's been a super, super late night / early morning getting this all finished up. We have got fender liners in on both sides. The rear bumper is all on and installed. The rear whole assembly is pretty much all there. At this point, we got to finish putting together the frunk. We got to finish putting on the diffuser. We got to finish putting on the last skid plate underneath. I'll join you guys after that's done. Skid plate is bolted on, diffuser's bolted on, fender liners are bolted in. I am about to connect the battery and get this thing fired up so it can warm up, plunk some wheels on it, put together the front, and I am gonna get out of here. Hopefully, we just reconnected the battery for the final time. Cold start. Makes me so happy that this thing sounds healthy, finally. Gotta figure out, still saying PCC degraded, and I'm not sure. Refill, fuel level, okay, so we need fuel, that's fine. Still saying PCC degraded, I'm not sure yet what that is. We're gonna have to let it run, cycle it through a little bit, we'll clear some codes, operate the nose lift up and down, operate the steering a bit, and hopefully, that should do the trick as far as the problems we're having on the dash, as well as like operation of the wing, operation of the suspension. Best of my knowledge, none of this should be too bad, but I've also never done this before. So I am going to get the wheels bolted on, get this thing lowered on the ground, and let's get her outside. Trunk is all closed up. Everything's all put back together. The complete underside is all put back together. We are ready to pull this thing outside, which is freaking bonkers because it's been, I don't even know, I kind of lost track of the hours, but probably about 40 hours spent into it with all the other stuff that we've done on top of the driveline damper. Couple weeks, a lot of money in parts, but here we are. She's ready to go outside. And just like that, the McLaren is out and officially moving under its own power again. Fresh downpipes, fresh spark plugs, fresh fluids all the way around, fresh driveline dampener, and about a million other things. This one has been a grind in 3/4, but I am so glad that it's finally done, and I'm so excited to get playing with this car again. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have yourselves a wonderful day. We'll catch you next time.